so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the pea heads themselves. I am your pea head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head's social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to this show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. On this week's Pea Head Posse episode, our guest is Positive Head listener Lillie May. Lillie is a speaker, author, and business strategist and creator of the Glambitious Network, in which she helps entrepreneurs thrive in their passion. She is connected with visionaries around the world through books, masterclasses, and innovative events to provide them with unique resources that would elevate them professionally and spiritually. Hi, Lillie. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So excited to talk to you. I vividly remember your email coming in and seeing Glambitious, and I was like, oh, that is a good word. I like her. So very excited to talk to you as well. Well, the way we start all of these off typically is, where you've been, where you've come from, what you've been through, what your journey has been like up until now that got you to this point where we're having this conversation. So would you mind sharing with everyone your journey so far?
Okay, yes, definitely. So I grew up in a small town, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in a very underserved community. So outside there was violence, people fighting a lot. You would see, gun or hear gunshots. I actually recall sitting on the porch with a friend once and seeing two people shoot at each other. So it was a very, impoverished neighborhood. However, inside our household, it was extremely loving. My mother and stepfather are probably two of the best human beings on earth. They were extremely loving. We were extremely close knit. We would eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, watch TV together, and just, there was just a lot of love inside the household. However, even with, my mother's best efforts to make my sister and I feel loved and confident, valuable, and worthy, my experiences outside of the home began to challenge those things that she instilled in us. So, for example, when I was 10 years old, my teacher discovered, or I guess suggested, that I was academically gifted. And so my school system had to add a special bus route for me to get to a school that has academically gifted classes. So overnight, I went from attending a school with my neighbors to attending a school with kids that were very privileged. So I ended up, making friends with kids that had horses and pools in their backyards and maids at home, or these huge bedrooms with their own bathroom inside of their bedroom. So, at 10 years old, I think is when I began to kind of notice the difference between, having financial success and not having it, and kind of a bit tying that to a sense of worth. And then fast forward, I went to high school. And again, in high school, many of the students that I attended school with came from well-off backgrounds. So I remember I was about 15 and I had a crush on a guy. And one of my friends said, "Oh, I told him that you have a crush on him." And he said he's going to wait for someone better. And that's like a significant blow at 15 years old. And I thought to myself, well, I know that I'm super cute and I'm definitely one of the smartest girls in the, school. So I internalized that to mean that because he came from a well-off background and I didn't, that I wasn't good enough to date him. So then fast forward a bit further, I went to University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels. And again, I was surrounded with students that were extremely privileged. One of my friends, freshman year, drove a Jaguar, freshman year, 18 years old, right? So again, that's, me being in this environment where outside I appear confident, I get along with everyone, I make these friends no matter what their backgrounds are, but internally, broadcasting a different message to myself internally. So to make a long story short, I meet a guy in college and we date on and off for about 10 years. Then we get engaged and, he's like my best friend, but about, I guess, the third year that we were engaged, long engagement, I realized that although we were great friends, we evolved into different people and we weren't, I think compatible for marriage. So we decided to end the engagement. And this is where I feel like I began what I call the process. And for me, the process is like an uncomfortable space right after a significant change has happened in your life. So for some people, they may have lost a job. For me, it was a romantic breakup. For someone else, it might be an illness. But it's in this process where I discovered the Positive Head podcast because I was just in such a low space. I was sad. I was disappointed. I felt a lot of embarrassment because to all of our friends and a lot of my colleagues, we were this perfect couple, so they didn't understand. And so through my process, I learned that really this had, all been kind of, to me, a divine order for me to get to a place where I recognize that self-love is a multifaceted experience and that it's important and the crux of overcoming obstacles, healing and really achieving, true fulfillment personally and professionally. And that's kind of the inspiration behind the Glambitious Network, is to help people realize or redefine what success looks like. It's not about material things, but it's really about, being filled with self-love and letting that spill over through your passion so that you feel good and you can inspire and help others to feel good. And so a couple of ways, when I first started the process and I would listen to the Positive Head podcast and hear the term self-love, I'm like, what does that mean? I love myself. I get my pedicures and my manis and I work out sometimes. I love myself. Why do I feel so terrible? And, self-love, it's about sitting with yourself, slowing down from all of the distractions and really taking inventory of your thoughts and your feelings, your connections, or the people that are energy vampires, and really learning, that sometimes self-love means saying no, and that no is a complete sentence. As a woman, I felt a lot of obligations to my friends. And I think all women go through this where you feel obligated to be the maid of honor. You feel obligated to plan the baby shower. And sometimes, depending on where you are in life, you have to just say no and put yourself first and feed your spirit and get some therapy and make sure that you're working out, read the empowerment books, listen to podcasts like this, and, really put yourself first. So that's kind of the long story short of, my background and how I guess arrived at this spiritual awakening, so to speak.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It reminds me of the beginning of like an awesome romantic comedy, but like a spiritual one, like everything's shifting, everything's falling apart, but it's really coming together and you're deepening and like really connecting with yourself. And there was something that popped up for me just that you just said when you were talking about like, what is self-love? Like, I love myself, I do these things. I was talking to someone recently, and I'm an EFT practitioner. So someone I was working with, and they were like, I just don't understand. I've been putting in all this work, like doing ceremonies, doing retreats, doing this to really just up level myself. And it popped into my head as she was speaking. I was like, but it's still like another form of leaving yourself. Like it's still another form of like, not like you were saying, sitting with yourself, actually willing to be with yourself. And so even self-help and even like this space of, transformation and personal development, I think we can even use those things to actually escape ourselves, right? Not that they're not good, they're great, but it's like, I'm just trying to relay, like I'm having the realization recently that like you can use anything to kind of escape, but that really what the whole point is to come home.
Absolutely. And I totally agree. Like you hit the nail on the head because, once I discovered, the Positive Head podcast, and then I was just opened up to like Abraham Hicks and just all of these spiritual advisors and teachings, I just went head first, and I was doing so much. And then I realized like, hold on, you're like using something to substitute for sitting with yourself. And for me, that was extremely hard to do because, I grew up with like a big family. So there were always a lot of people around. Then, I went to school. I was always in a bunch of activities. And then, when I was in a relationship, my romantic partner was always there. And then as an entrepreneur, I was a socialite. So I had so many distractions and so many things to keep me busy that sitting alone with Lillie for like a couple of hours, it felt a little unnerving. Like that's when you really, really see what you really think about yourself and how you really feel about yourself. And there's one thing that I learned about this summer from a young lady, Lindasha Jameson. She had a conference, and then she had us do what she calls heart vomit. And I was like, what is that?
Whoa.
That was gross, right? Heart vomit. And then for her, she said heart vomit is when you take a second to write down every thought, every word, every phrase that's in your mind and heart at that moment. And I was like, okay, and as I started writing, things just started coming out, and you find yourself repeating certain things, like maybe irritation, if you've been feeling a lot of irritation or tired or exhaustion or disappointment. And then it's like you hone in on the things that are repeating to realize like that's what's really going on with me. So I need to, sit down for a second, sit with myself and meditate or talk to a therapist or just slow down a bit and not just keep having all of these distractions and all of these things that take me away from the work, which is inside.
I love that. I've not heard of heart vomit until this moment, but I do like that. And I do, I think that's definitely like a valid practice. And, it brought up another thing for me. Something else that's been kind of coming into my awareness recently is like, this, and I'm curious your insight on this, because I feel like this is kind of your area, but like, even being able to admit to ourselves what we want, what we need, what we're feeling. Cause I feel like so much of the time it's like a lot of us are afraid to, shake things up because we feel like, well, if I were to even admit to something that deep down I really want, but I can't even let myself acknowledge, right? Because if I acknowledge that, then what does that mean for everything around me? Then that means everything would change. Would I lose this person? Would I lose this? Would I have to change this job? Would I have to move? Like, what would that mean? And so I feel like the process you're talking about is a way to just really like get in touch with what are the desires. And it's like a process kind of to like just push past the filters so that you can just hear yourself for a second. And I just feel like there's so much power in letting yourself hear what you really want without worrying about what that means. Just like, what do you want? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Because in the instance, I'll say with like my relationship, which, he was a great person and I was a great person and we were great friends from college. And it was hard to, separate from that and say, okay, what do I really want? I want to travel the world. I want to be with someone that's like, hey, let's go to Italy this weekend. I want to climb the mountaintops. I want to do all of these dynamic things that just my partner didn't value. And so by me really acknowledging that these are really things that are important to me and these are things that I want, it caused that shakeup. It caused me to end something. And one thing I think that makes us shy back from identifying what we really want out of life is uncertainty. Like, okay, well, what am I going to do next? You know, in the situation of a romantic situation, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be single at 35. I'm going to be single and childless at 35. What does that mean? You know, who am I going to meet? And then as it relates to like your purpose, you think, oh, what am I, friends going to think? Or if you've gotten graduate degrees and you decide to do something that has nothing to do with that, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, what are my parents going to think? And so the uncertainty and some of that doubt is what keeps us from really, keeping it 100 with ourselves as far as this is what I really want out of life. And I feel like life is too short to sell yourself short. Life is too short to pretend, because I feel like I did a lot of pretending. Like I used to joke with my friends because they called me Perfect Patty for so long, because I like to appear that everything's perfect and everything is going great. But when you allow yourself, to be real with yourself, that's when you get to the core of what you really want out of life. And I think you owe it to yourself to go after whatever that is. You owe it to yourself to shake things up. And you owe it to, the people that are going to benefit from that, as a result of me being strong enough to leave a 13-year relationship. I can inspire other women that are, in long-term marriages and need to get out. Or, a lot of times our pain is directly connected to our purpose. And if we can just, be strong enough to acknowledge what those pains are or what the desires of our heart are and kind of tie it all together, then it just kind of, births a really beautiful unfolding and a really great opportunity to inspire and help other people, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Sorry, I was just silent for a second because I was like so hanging on your every word. And then I was like, oh no, I need to speak now. So sorry. I can you talk a little bit about the Glambitious Network? What you've built. I think it's like I said, I love the name. I love like the energy. I'm just wondering, like, what is it? What do you use it for? How can people work with you, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, when I first relocated to Atlanta after graduating from UNC Chapel Hill, I got my dream job and then I was laid off. And then I got another job and then I was laid off. So I was literally laid off 3 times. And then I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I started that with a PR agency. And so I was so young, I think maybe 25, starting a business. And there was so much that I didn't know, that so many bumps in the road and things that I learned along the way, that now I've decided to create a platform that helps people with entrepreneurship, that helps them, get the resources they need and get the tools and things that they need to achieve their dreams, so that they don't have so many hiccups in the road as I had to experience. And then I've also tied a level of spiritual elevation into that, because through my journey, I've realized that self-love is directly connected to fulfillment and success in anything. And I don't define success as, oh, I made $1 million, I'm successful, because we see, successful people that have plenty of money that, are very unhappy. So with Glambitious, it's about, being your best from the outside in or from the inside out. So looking your best, feeling your best, doing the inner work, and then using that to elevate whatever your purpose and passion is. So we have tons of events around the country. We have books and webinars, masterclasses, all types of creative opportunities to help entrepreneurs, reach more clients, develop their business. And our platform on Instagram is Glambitious IAM. And then the website is theglamceo.com. So I definitely urge people to check it out, because there's so many awesome things that we've poured into the site, resources, opportunities, and all of that good stuff.
Oh, that sounds amazing. What's like your favorite thing that you guys offer, or like something you really love that you guys have been working on or that you do? Yeah,
so there's a new e-guide that we have available, and it's called Win While You Wait: How the Process Leads to the Promise. And so I always joke with people and say, oh, I have self-diagnosed ADD. And so because of that, I write books that are very easy and quick reads, because I feel like entrepreneurs, we have a million things going on, so we need to get to the meat and move on. So it's a very quick read, but it helps people that find themselves in that process, in that uncomfortable space where they haven't quite manifested something very important to them. And it shows you how to find, the gems and the gifts of now, and how to to maximize that season of waiting. So that's an e-guide that's available on the site. And then also I offer like one-on-one coaching with people. So when they have an idea that they want to develop into a business, or if they have a business, but they don't have a staff to bounce things off of, and they want to, get resources and feedback and ideas. So that's another thing I offer. And I'm currently accepting like clients for 2019 because I love helping people bring their vision into reality. So all of that's on the website, theglamceo.com. And I also created a special discount code for listeners. They could enter the code Positive Head and get 50% off everything, every book, webinar, everything that they find. So the website is theglamceo.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope the listeners take you up on that. I'm going to go check it out. I think it sounds awesome. And, there's a lot of people in this group who are starting things and, I definitely, and even myself. So I'm definitely going to check that out. Thank you so much for the discount code. That's great. So how about this? What is one thing you think would benefit every positive head to know or understand as they continue on their own journey?
I would say to just remember that now is not your forever. Sometimes whatever season we're in can feel like it's just never going to end, like it's, a never ending season. And it's important to remember that now is not your forever. And when you realize that, it kind of makes you stop wishing your life away. How many times do we find ourselves saying, oh, I wish I had $1 million, I'd be happy. Or I wish I had a husband, I'd be happy. I wish I had this and that. And it's like you're wishing your life away. And there's so many lessons and gifts to be learned with whatever moment that you have before you, that it's important to just embrace whatever you have going on right now. Find the lessons, find the gifts in it, find how you can take this moment and inspire other people or help other people, because seasons always change. People always change. We always evolving. So that mentality has kind of helped me no matter what's going on or whoever I encounter, I'm able to have empathy knowing that they might be in their process season. So it's even made me be less judgmental with people, knowing that they may be in a process just like I'm in a process. So maybe that's why, they're behaving this way, because they're in their process. But whatever process you're in, just know that it's not forever. And there's so many gifts in the now.
Yeah, actually, what would you say? Because I totally agree. Like there's so many gifts in the now. And I was just talking about this with someone, how, we have this human tendency to, it's like we won't relax into the moment. We can't relax, especially if we feel like something is wrong. I mean, like, for example, you've been using this example of, the catalyst for you, which put you into your process, which was this relationship. And it's like this feeling that something is wrong, but not knowing, it's not relaxing and not being able to relax in order to see more clearly, because we feel like we have to do something about it. You know what I mean? Like that's, and I feel like sometimes we do have to do something about it, but sometimes we just have to relax so that we can see clearly. Do you have any like tips or insight on that, on how to kind of break that cycle of like this struggle that we go through in the, like against the moment,
Yes, and that has definitely been one of my biggest struggles. As an entrepreneur, I am super controlling. Like I control my business, I control my life, and I'm a Capricorn. So, Capricorns kind of have their reputation. And so getting into a season where I was out of control and not able to completely control things that were happening to me was extremely tough. But to your point, what really helped me learn to let go and learn to flow and not force is when I started working on alignment. And so I was, again, introduced to Abraham Hicks through the podcast. So I would listen to a lot of what Abraham Hicks says. And a lot of what she's saying is about being aligned and meditating and relaxing and, freeing your head. And I feel like when you force, it makes things so much more difficult. And for me, as an entrepreneur early on, I felt like I was forcing a lot with my business because I was trying too hard. And then when I learned that I could be aligned with my higher self and be at peace and relax, like opportunities, connections, things started popping out of the woodworks that I couldn't even plan or couldn't even fathom because I wasn't forcing, I was just flowing. So as far as like advice for people who find themselves being like super controlling or resisting, I would say to meditate. That's been the single best tool for me to slow down my mind because my mind is constantly on go. It's constantly how to fix the problem. But when you meditate and really, pray and become aligned with your higher self, it kind of, allows the energies that be to work on your behalf instead of you forcing and pushing things. So start with meditation because that really helped me learn how to relax. And even now, if I feel agitated or if I feel irritated or if I feel anxious or nervous, I just shut everything down. I shut off my phone and I just sit. And then sometimes I'll even listen to a meditation if I need something to listen to, just to relax for a second and just kind of, let the powers that be, work the magic, so to speak, for us instead of us working so hard to make it happen. And then, what's really interesting, I feel like for most people, we're good at one area and then we're struggling at the other. So for example, I have friends that have a great dating life, but then they're struggling with business. Or I have friends that are great at business, but then they're struggling with the dating part as far as, resistance. And so the key is just to really try to relax and let go in all areas, no matter whether it's relationship based, whether it's professional, whatever it is, just force yourself to meditate. Start with 5 minutes, increase to 10 minutes. And I think eventually you'll realize that things just flow together more easily when you're relaxed and not trying to force and go against the grain.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely agree. So do you have any fun or inspiring manifestation stories or stories of synchronicity that you'd like to share? We love stories over here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I started listening to the podcast maybe 2 years ago. And literally after maybe the first 4 episodes, I thought to myself, one day, I'm going to evolve into this spiritual guru and I'm going to be interviewed on the Positive Head podcast. Like absolutely amazing that I got to chat with you today because I was thinking, 10, 20 years from now, once I've evolved, then I'll be able to hop on and talk. But here we are. And I'm really also great at manifesting like tickets, as weird as that sounds. And I think because I don't have any resistance to it. So for example, I went to see Beyonce and then I thought to myself, I would love to go back and see Beyonce. And then a call that was like, hey, I got 2 tickets to see Beyonce. Want to come? And then, earlier this year, I wanted to see Kevin Hart live because I've always seen, the comedian Kevin Hart. With the movies and things like that. But I was like, I would love to see him live. And then a friend called and was like, hey, I got floor seats. Want to come? So I've become really good at those types of things. I just have to, keep at it. Oh, one more example. And this is a business related example because I definitely believe like the power of manifestation in business is so magical. So I hosted an empowerment event, my first empowerment event in New Orleans this summer during Essence Festival. So I intentionally made it a small event since it was my first event and we had like 60 ladies come. It was amazing. And I thought to myself like, oh, next year I want to double the attendance. Like I want to have a bigger venue. I want double the number of ladies to attend next year. And so literally a month later, out the blue, a young lady emailed me and said, hey, I want to buy 100 VIP tickets to your brunch next summer in New Orleans for my travel group. So it was like, wow. Powerful manifestation there. So
love that.
Exciting thing.
That is awesome. Those are fun manifestations. I really like that. Mm-hmm. Oh man. Well, is there anything else that you feel called to share before we start wrapping up here?
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing that, I mentioned earlier how I used to have like this perfect Patty mentality and I always wanted to appear that, like everything was perfect. But I think transparency is important for us all to embrace because that is how we can help heal people is through our own transparency. People cannot be healed by who you pretend to be. They need to connect with authenticity. And so I think the more that we, embrace every aspect of our journey and have the transparency to come on and share our pains, our losses and our gains, the more people that we can inspire. So those would be my closing.
I love that. Absolutely right. Transparency is the key. And, yeah, this has been very refreshing. I love your energy, and I'm looking at your picture right now, and it's so from Skype, and it's just making me feel so happy looking at it. So everyone definitely go check out Lillie and Glambitious Network and take her up on that offer, because it sounds really, really awesome. And I feel like anyone would be very lucky to just work with you and be in your energy. So thank you so much for sharing your story and, just taking the time to share your wisdom and yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another P-Head Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.